Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Isha Jahan with the top stories. Higher taxes in Obama's budget would cut deficits, CBO. Myanmar's teen cause sworn in as president. Rousseff's blow as Brazil's biggest party quits coalition. The campaign against IS as residents flee Mosul. US military jet crashes in Afghanistan, Pentagon. Viewers, now the detail. US President Barack Obama's fiscal 2017 budget would produce $6.9 trillion in deficits over the next decade if enacted, about $2.4 trillion less than undercurrent tax and spending laws, congressional forecasts said on Tuesday. The Congressional Budget Office said in a new analysis, however, that its 10-year deficit estimate is $776 billion higher than the administration's own forecast. This is largely the result of lower revenues resulting from the CBO's projections for slower economic growth, lower wage and salary growth, and lower revenue gains associated with Obama's tax proposals. Obama's budget calls for limiting tax deductions for high-income taxpayers, increasing capital gain taxes, and imposing minimum taxes on foreign income and about a $10 a barrel oil tax. Country sees Teen Kaw, a close aide of Aung San Suu Kyi, sworn in after over 5 decades of military rule. Teen Kaw has been sworn in as Myanmar's new president over more than 5 decades of military rule in the country. In a ceremony in the parliament on Wednesday, democracy icon and leader of the ruler party, Aung San Suu Kyi, was sworn in as Minister of Foreign Affairs, Education and Energy and will also hold the president's office portfolio. She was unable to become president because of a constitutional block, even though she led her National League for Democratic Party to a landslide win in general elections last November. PMDB party's decision to leave coalition decreases possibility Dilma Rousseff will survive pressure for her impeachment. Brazil's biggest party announced on Tuesday it is pulling its members from its governor coalition, dealing a major blow to embattled President Dilma Rousseff. The Brazilian Democratic Movement Party decided at a leadership meeting that its 6 remaining ministers in Rousseff's cabinet, as well as all other party members with government appointments, must resign or face ethics proceedings.
From today onwards, in this historic meeting for the PMDB is breaking from President Dilma Rousseff's government.
The Syrian government wants to use the recaptured city of Palmyra to launch operations against Islamic State strongholds further east, and residents fleeing Mosul tell stories of life under the militants. In the fight with Islamic State, this is one of the battlefields said to be Syria's central Homs province in video released by the militants claiming to be targeting the Syrian army. Other video claims to show them in western Kalamun firing at rival militants in the Nusra front. The various air campaigns against IS, Syrian, Russian and US-led, may be taking their toll. Last week, IS had one of its biggest setbacks, the loss of the ancient city of Palmyra. The Syrian government now wants to make the city a launchpad for operations against IS strongholds farther east. A Pentagon spokesman says a US Air Force pilot is safe after an F-16 plane crashes during takeoff near Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan.
Afternoon, everyone. An F-16 has crashed in Afghanistan. A U.S. Air Force F-16 assigned to the 455th crashed during takeoff today at about 8:30 in the evening near Bagram Airfield. The pilot safely ejected, was recovered by coalition forces, and is being evaluated by medical personnel. Coalition forces are securing the crash site. The cause of this accident will be investigated, and more information will be released as it becomes available. But literally, that's all I know at this point. I was handed this just a moment ago, so I want to share that with you all first of all.
Viewers, stranded migrants scuffle with police at Greek border. Belgium marks 1 week since attacks. Egypt air hijacker surrenders. US orders army diplomatic families out of South Turkey. Viewers, let's move to the next news. Migrants scuffle with police at the Idomeni border camp on the Greek border as frustration grows over the fate of some 12,000 who continue to languish in the camp. Scuffles broke out between migrants and police at the Idomeni border camp on Tuesday amid rising tension over the fate of some 12,000 who continue to stay at the camp. Migrants threw stones at riot police and pushed down a cordon of officers with shields who had come to clear protesters off the railway tracks. Migrants have been blocking the railway tracks for days in protest, demanding to be allowed through the Greece-Macedonia border. It is just one of the angry protests in the last days as the options run out of the camp's inhabitants. Late on Monday, the migrants stated another protest which was broken up by police without the use of force. The government has appealed to migrants to leave the makeshift camp and its rough and unsanitary conditions for official reception centers, but they do not want to leave in the slim chance the frontier will open, which is unlikely. 1 week after the bombing attacks that killed dozens of people and wounded hundreds more, Brussels is trying to get back at life as normal, although many residents say the city is changed forever. Brussels is tentatively getting back to work a week after Islamist bomb attacks ripped through the heart of the city. 3 days of mourning, then the long Easter weekend, and the capital of the European Union is slowly getting back to normal. Riders at the Malbec metro station, where one of the bombs went off, pause and reflect. Woman who works in neighborhood, Alain Dossimon, saying, "We are in the fallout stage now. We are under pressure for all our last week, and now we are starting to breathe a bit."
Insecurity and intelligence, and that political blame game is testing Belgium's fragile unity, reminding other residents of Brussels that perhaps getting back to normal, for now, is beyond reach.
On ne l'a pas ressenti comme étant quelque chose qui pouvait nous toucher directement parce que, je sais pas, on se sentait peut-être un peu protégés. Maintenant, je crois que les gens ont pris conscience, effectivement, qu'il y avait une menace. Et on regardera toujours les choses maintenant différemment.
A man has been arrested after allegedly hijacking an Egypt airplane flying from Alexandria to Cairo and forcing it to land in Cyprus. The man, believed to be hijacker of the Egypt airplane, gave himself up after an hours-long standoff on the airport tarmac in Cyprus. Officials say that the man had forced the plane to land there while en route from Alexandria to Cairo. 81 passengers and crew were on board. After negotiations, everyone on board were freed except 3 passengers and 4 crew members. Some later escaped. Conflicting theories have emerged about the man's motive, although authorities say that for now they are focusing on safety.
No, I think it's a good question, but let's address this after we finalize the incident and after we make sure that our people are safe and after we investigate how this passenger was able to get whatever equipment he has on board.
Moved by State Department and Pentagon comes as Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan is set to arrive to Washington. The U.S. State Department and Pentagon ordered on Tuesday the families of American diplomats and military staff to leave posts in southern Turkey because of security fears. The move comes at heightened corners throughout Turkey and was accompanied by an updated travel warning advising U.S. citizens of an increased threat of attacks. The Associated Press reported. The U.S. Department and Pentagon say dependents of American office staffers at the U.S. consulate in Adana and the Incirlik Air Base and the 2 other locations must leave. Cell phone video shows a dramatic fire that broke out in a residential tower in Asman at the United Arab Emirates. Firefighters brought under control a fire that broke out at a residential tower in Asman in the United Arab Emirates. The city civil defense said on Tuesday. Local media say that 5 people were treated at this spot for injuries from the fire, which broke out late at night on Monday at the Asman 1, a residential cluster of 12 towers. Fire gutted at least 2 towers. Residents of towers were evacuated and cause of the fire was not immediately known. The civil defense made no mention of any casualties from the blaze. A video posted online by police showed burning debris falling from the building as police condoned off-roads leading to the site. It was at least the 4th major high-rise fire in UAE in 3 years. A ban on the sale of cattle for slaughter in India could send millions of farmers into poverty. It's a knock-on effect on the right-wing push from Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ruling BJP party, aiming to put greater emphasis on Hindu values, including keeping cows sacred.
Every week, farmers travel to this cattle market in Maharashtra state. These days, few people are buying. Cows are considered sacred in Hinduism, and their slaughter has historically been banned in most Indian states, but rarely enforced. India is the world's largest exporter of beef. That's all changed over the past year, after the government extended the slaughter ban to other types of cattle like bulls and bullocks. Added to that is a rise in attacks on traders by Hindu vigilantes eager to enforce the ban. Some farmers are now willing to sell their bulls at half the price they paid for them.
I bought them for $600, but now nobody wants to buy them. I'm even willing to sell them for $200 to $300, but because of the ban on cow slaughter, the butchers aren't buying. They need to remove this ban.
Business has also taken a hit from the persistent drought. Farmer suicides have nearly doubled in the state as millions of them struggle to sell animals they can no longer feed. Others are simply abandoning their cattle. The distress is causing concern within Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government. It's pledged nearly $13 billion for rural development and aims to double farmers' incomes by 2022. In Maharashtra, hundreds of temporary shelters have been opened to house cattle until the owners can take them back. Some observers say in that state alone, another 4 million animals need to be cared for.
Judge rules reasonable doubt after Israeli soldier caught on video shooting wounded Palestinian in the head. An Israeli military court says evidence is inconclusive against one of its soldiers who was caught on camera shooting dead a wounded Palestinian. Lieutenant Colonel Ronan Sher, the judge, said on Tuesday there is reasonable doubt about the circumstances of the shooting given the complexity of the events surrounding a stabbing incident and the killing that followed. Sher also ruled the soldier will be held in custody for more 2 days. Prosecutors earlier said that the shooting was intentional and asked the court to extend the soldier's detention until April 7th while the investigation is ongoing. But the judge said he can only be held until Thursday.
I'm still taken by surprise by the shooting. I've taken hundreds of videos documenting it.
Nighttime curfew was imposed in Rakhine State in June 2012 after violent clashes killed more than 200 people. President Thein Sein, Myanmar's outgoing leader, lifted a nearly 4-year curfew in the western state of Rakhine, where clashes between the minority Rohingya Muslims and majority Buddhists left more than 200 people dead. Thein Sein made the last-minute decision to lift the nighttime curfew on the recommendation of the state government, which felt it was no longer necessary. State media reported on Tuesday. Crackdown comes days after deadly suicide bombing targeting Christians killed 72, including 29 children. Pakistan rounded up 5,000 suspects, then released most of them in the 2 days since the suicide bomber killed at least 72 people celebrating Easter, an official said on Tuesday. Investigators kept 216 suspects in custody pending further investigations, said Rana Sanaullah, a state minister for Punjab province from Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's ruling party. Details of the sweeping raids aimed at anyone suspected of armed violence came as the Taliban faction, claiming responsibility for the Lahore attack, issued a new threat singling off the media. Sanaullah said 5,221 people were detained and 5,005 released after verifying their identities. Army spokesman General Asim Bajwa said the military and paramilitary rangers were conducted raid across Punjab, Pakistan's richest and most popular province, in rapid response in the Easter bombing. Viewers, the act of shackling mentally ill patients still widely practiced in Indonesia, where psychological diseases are misunderstood and socially unacceptable. A plate of food is passed to the 28-year-old woman chained to his wooden shack in Indonesia. Her family locked her up 4 years ago after they say she began showing signs of mental illness. And here a 19-year-old boy was chained up by his father, who says he was embarrassed because his son stole some buffalo. "I don't know," he said when asked why he's been chained up. "Maybe I created the trouble." The act of shackling and the mentally ill, or pasang, that has been illegal in Indonesia since 1977. But the method is still widely used. Patients eat, sleep and defecate in confined space, all while chained up. According to a report by the Human Rights Watch, more than 18,000 people with mental disorders are shackled by their families, either at home or in government-run healing centers.
There is a law. Pasung is illegal in Indonesia, and yet it's happening in pantis, in institutions, run by kiais, licensed by the government. I think that's a first starting point. But there needs to be monitoring, including of private institutions and homes. to ensure that this practice does not exist.
The United States has said it will remain beside Bangladesh in the ongoing fight against violent extremism and terrorism, which threaten Bangladesh, the United States, and many other societies that cherish basic human freedoms. The American people have long been with Bangladesh, and today I am here to underscore that they will remain by your side, said Nisha Desai Biswal, Assistant Secretary, Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs, U.S. Department of State. Biswal was addressing a function at the Embassy of Bangladesh in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday while marking Bangladesh's Independence Day. The U.S. diplomat said she has every confidence that the people of the two nations will encounter no problem which, working side by side, they cannot solve together. We'll be there in the long struggle against the effects of climate change which threaten the many tens of millions of people that live along our coastline, she added. Biswal said they will also be in support of the rights of every citizen to speak openly, practice their faiths freely, assemble peacefully, and vote in honest and fair elections because democracy lives in the DNA of two peoples. Viewers, now the business news. Boeing Corporation will eliminate about 4,000 jobs in its commercial airplanes divisions by the middle of this year as it looks to control costs, a company spokesman told media on Tuesday. The plane maker will reduce 1,600 positions through voluntary layoffs, while the rest are expected to be done by leaving open positions unfilled, spokesman Doug Alder said. While there is no employment reduction target, the more we can control costs as a whole, the less impact there will be to employment, Alder said. The job cuts will include hundreds of executives and managers, but will not done through involuntary layoffs, Alder said. Media had reported last month that the company was considering offering voluntary layoffs to its professional engineers and technical workers. Japan's Takata Corporation would face about $24 billion in cost to recall its airbag inflators in a worst-case scenario, Bloomberg News reported, sending its shares tumbling about 20%. Representatives for Takata were not immediately available for comment. A worst-case recall scenario would involve 287.5 million airbag inflators, Bloomberg quoted a person familiar with matter as saying. Viewers, now the science, technology and environment news. If the U.S. Department of Justice asks a New York court to force Apple Incorporation to unlock an iPhone, the technology company could push the government to reveal how it accessed the phone, which belonged to a shooter in San Bernardino, a source familiar with the situation said.
The high-stakes legal battle between Apple and the U.S. government comes to an abrupt and unexpected end. On Monday, the U.S. Justice Department said it had successfully unlocked the encrypted iPhone used by one of the San Bernardino shooters and dropped its legal case against Apple. Apple had refused a court order that would have forced it to write new software to get into the phone.
That we have a responsibility to help you protect your data and protect your privacy.
The phone in question was owned by Rizwan Farouk, one of the husband and wife shooters in the December rampage in which 14 people were killed. But the fight between Apple and the government leaves questions over law enforcement's access to encrypted information unresolved. The tech industry insists that anything that helps authorities bypass security safeguards undermines security for everyone. The government says they have to access phone data to carry out successful criminal investigations. Apple may have won this round of the encryption battle, but the war is far from over.
Students from ETH Zurich are developing an exoskeleton for paraplegics that they say more accurately mimics natural knee gait, meaning it won't struggle on uneven terrain. Powered exoskeletons can give paraplegics or those with lower limb weakness the ability to walk again, but they often struggle adapting to uneven terrain or coping with unexpected obstacles. Mechanical engineers from ETH Zurich believe they have the solution. The prototype exoskeleton has its important addition that could make it able to cope with whatever comes its way.
Here at the Verilec we implemented the variable impedance, mechanical variable impedance, which is something special that no other exoskeleton has implemented at the moment. The advantage of this is that we can mimic the human-like stiffness adaptation of the human knee, and this also allows us to adapt to unexpected obstacles because we can say how stiff the knee should behave. On these crutches there we will have several buttons to change the modes, so we will have like a straight walking mode and a stairs mode and a sit down mode, so he can change between the modes and then tell the device what it should do.
Already a pioneer in high technology and cutting-edge agriculture, Israel is starting to attack American companies looking to bring medical marijuana and know-how to blooming market back home. Since 2014, U.S. firms have invested about $50 million in licensing Israeli medical marijuana patients. Cannabis agrotech startups and firms developing delivery devices such as inhalers, said Sol Kai, CEO of ICANN, a private cannabis research hub. I expect it to grow to $100 million in the coming year, Kay said at an ICANN's Canatech conference in Tel Aviv this month, one of the largest gatherings of medical marijuana experts. Scientists say strict rules, some set by the Drug Enforcement Administration, limit cannabis studies in the United States, where the legal marijuana market is valued at $5.7 billion and expected to grow to $23 billion by 2020.
So I see money in the room, billions of dollars came to see what's going on in Israel.
It is difficult, it's complicated, and if somebody thinks that he can get into medical cannabis and make millions tomorrow morning, it's, from my understanding, not so simple.
Footage taken at Australia's Great Barrier Reef shows that authorities are calling the worst coral bleaching in 15 years. Australian scientists are alarmed at the amount of coral bleaching at the Great Barrier Reef. Some areas are experiencing the worst bleaching in 15 years. When corals are stretched by changes in conditions such as warmer temperatures, they expel algae, causing them to turn white. Scientists say that the Great Barrier Reef needs a break within weeks if some coral areas are to survive. This year is said to be the hottest on record, and 2016 could be warmer due to El Nino weather pattern. Viewers, now the entertainment news. Oscar-winning American actress Patty Duke dies at age 69. American actress Patty Duke won an Oscar for her role in 1962's The Miracle Worker has died. Duke died Tuesday morning in Idaho from sepsis due to a ruptured intestine, according to her spokesman. She was 69 years old. The actress began working as a teen and won a Best Supporting Actress Academy Award for The Miracle Worker at age 16. She starred in her own sitcom, The Patty Duke Show, from 1963 to 1966 and had a role in 1967 Valley of the Dolls. She later became president of the Screen Actors Guild in the 1980s and also became an advocate for mental health issues after being diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 1982. The former One Direction member released his debut solo album Mind on Mine. Former One Direction member Zayn Malik is officially a solo artist. The British singer released his debut album Mind of Mine on March 25 and celebrated with fans and iHeartRadio in New York. During the concert, he performed songs from his 14-track album including Truth. His first single, Pillow Talk, was the fastest-selling single of 2016, the week it was released in February, and reached #1 in the UK, United States, Australia, Canada and Ireland. The British singer left One Direction last March after 5 years with a hugely successful boy band that was first discovered on the talent show X Factor. A Japanese girl band wears masks to help them stand out from the sea of the pop idol wannabes. Standing out from the crowds of a myriad girl and idol bands in Japan could be a daunting task, but such one crew, called Kamen Joshi, seems to have found the answer by wearing masks. The band, whose name means masked girls in Japanese, started 3 years ago. The band's manager says putting off the masks began a way to make them easier to recognize out of the multitude of other girl bands that dot the landscape of Japan's entertainment world. Organizers said that at the start of their career, they had trouble filling up a 400-seater theater. Now they have no problem filling up the Saitama Super Arena with over 15,000 fans, as they did it at the end of the last year. Viewers, now the sports news. World #1 Novak Djokovic beat Australian Dominic Thiem 6-3, 6-4 in the 4th round of the Miami Open in Florida on Tuesday. Djokovic needed 4 match points before finally prevailing against a 22-year-old whose thunderous foreheads frequently had the Serb on the back foot. Thiem could not capitalize on his chances. However, in the end, Djokovic's consistency proved the difference and he advanced after 1 hour and 50 minutes. I stayed tough when it was most needed, Djokovic told the ATP Tour website. In the important moments, I just tried to make him play, make him run. He was very powerful strokes from the back of the court, so he either made some really amazing shots down the line mostly and some great inside-out forehands, or he makes a mistake. Another high-speed fill at the Miami Open as number 5 Simona Halep was sent packing by Timea Baksinski 4-6, 6-3, 6-2 in the quarterfinals in Florida on Tuesday. Romanian Halep appeared well placed for victory when she took the first set. It was only the second set Baksinski had dropped during the tournament, and the 9th-seeded Swiss made sure it would be her last of the day as she prevailed in a match that stretched nearly 2 hours and 30 minutes. Watched by a crowd which included Swiss ski champion Lara Gott, Baksinski ended the match in style with a court-scored backhand winner. I came back from a long road, 26-year-old who had battled back from injury said in a courtside interview. For the past year, she has been an inspiration for me because I believe in hard work and I know she is one of the players which work really hard. To be able to play that well against her and catch the win is really amazing. Viewers, let's have a look at Millennium TV News Recap. Higher taxes in Obama's budget would cut deficits, CBO. Myanmar's teen Kaw sworn in as president. Rossif's blow as Brazil's biggest party quits coalition. The campaign against IS as residents flee Mosul. US military jet crashes in Afghanistan, Pentagon. You are up to date with the top stories so far here on Millennium TV, and don't forget to log into www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you and stay with Millennium TV. Allah Hafiz.